The winter air bit through German uniforms like sharpened steel. Snow crunched under frozen boots as a soldier pressed field glasses against his face. His hands shook from more than cold. What he witnessed through those lenses would destroy every belief about German superiority forever. December 23, 1944, stretched before him like Judgment Day. The sky filled with aircraft. Not a handful of desperate planes, an endless armada that blocked out the pale winter sun. Transport after transport after transport. More planes than his mind could process. The observer belonged to the 26th Volks Grenadier Division. He watched from Sennenchamp's Hill in Belgium. The time was 11:45 hours. What filled his vision defied comprehension. Hundreds upon hundreds of C-47 aircraft, 241 planes total, all flying toward one small encircled town. His voice cracked as he whispered into his radio. The sky was full of them. This could not be happening. This should not be possible. Through his periscope, sight came revelation. American air power stretched across the Belgian horizon like migrating birds in impossible numbers. Not 12 planes, not 24. An entire aerial fleet dropping supplies to surrounded American forces. Weather had prevented resupply until this moment. Now, the demonstration began. Soldiers from General Major Heinz Kokot's division stared upward from their siege positions. Colored parachutes bloomed against winter clouds. Red meant ammunition. Blue carried medical supplies. Yellow held food rations. White contained miscellaneous equipment. The entire Luftwaffe could not mount such an operation, had not possessed such capability since Stalingrad 2 years earlier. Yet above one Belgian crossroads, the Americans displayed air superiority that exceeded Germany's greatest achievements. Even at the height of Third Reich power, nothing compared to this. Mathematics of defeat wrote themselves across the sky. Not through tactical maneuvers or heroic last stands. Simple, overwhelming demonstration of American logistical supremacy transformed hardened Wehrmacht veterans into witnesses of their empire's inevitable collapse. 7 days earlier, supreme confidence had filled German ranks. December 16, 1944 at 5:30, the assault commenced. Massive 90-minute artillery barrage using 1,600 artillery pieces across 130 kilometers. 80-mile front erupted in flame and steel. Operation Wacht am Rhein launched Hitler's desperate gamble. Watch on the Rhine would split Allied armies. Recapture the vital port of Antwerp. Initial results exceeded all expectations. American lines crumbled under German weight. During evening hours of December 15th, final troop movements took place. Cold and darkness covered the advancing formations. Narrow paths covered with ice crowded with troops and vehicles. All moving toward departure positions and firing locations. Soldiers heard promises of Germany's moment of destiny. The Führer himself planned this offensive. Weak, decadent Americans would crumble before German determination. Their lines in the Ardennes held inexperienced troops and exhausted divisions, units sent there to rest and refit. Wehrmacht forces would knife through them like 1940 glory days, when German armies conquered France in 6 weeks. Among attacking formations stood the 26th Volks Grenadier Division. This unit rebuilt after destruction on the Eastern Front, a hollowed formation retaining few veterans from Russian and Normandy campaigns. Mostly Luftwaffe and Kriegsmarine replacements filled the ranks. Despite mixed composition, morale remained high. New weapons were promised. Adequate supplies guaranteed. Complete surprise assured. Initial success validated every promise made. American initial impression suggested anticipated localized counterattack only. Wehrmacht achieved complete tactical surprise. American positions dissolved under assault weight. Entire units surrendered or fled westward in panic. Roads to Antwerp seemed clear and open. Victory appeared within grasp. By December 18th, German forces raced toward objectives with stunning speed. Hasso von Manteuffel commanded the 5th Panzer Army. He gave Heinrich Freiherr von Luttwitz's 47th Panzer Corps responsibility for capturing Bastogne. Before crossing the Meuse near Namur, offensive mathematics seemed simple and achievable. 7 major roads converged on Bastogne. Control those roads meant controlling American supply system throughout the Ardennes. Without Bastogne, Americans could not move reinforcements, could not supply their forces, could not mount counteroffensive operations. German attack plan appeared ambitious but achievable, at least from their perspective. Luttwitz planned attacking a 7-mile, 11-kilometer front with 3 divisions. The 26th Volksgrenadier and 2nd Panzer would lead assault. Panzer Lehr Division positioned behind them. These formations carried experience from multiple campaigns. Veterans equipped with Germany's best remaining tanks and assault guns. The 26th Volksgrenadier Division advanced with particular determination. Its Panzerjäger anti-tank battalion maintained full complement of 14 tracked Hetzer tank destroyers, plus impressive 42 75mm anti-tank guns. This made the 26th among the best-equipped Volksgrenadier units in the Ardennes. They prepared for American armor, ready for desperate counterattacks, ready for anything except what they would actually encounter. First signs of something different appeared as they approached Bastogne. Americans were not simply retreating in disorder. They fell back in organized fashion, destroying bridges systematically, establishing roadblocks methodically, making Germans pay for every mile advanced. Units like Combat Command B 10th Armored Division held Germans off long enough. Leading elements of 101st Airborne Division arrived in Bastogne mere 4 hours ahead of German spearheads. The Screaming Eagles had been resting in Reims, France, when German offensive began. Within hours, they loaded onto trucks. Racing through night toward Bastogne, they arrived exhausted, under-equipped for winter warfare, immediately thrown into defensive positions around the town. Yet they arrived in time. That timing would make all the difference. By December 20th, German forces successfully surrounded Bastogne. All 7 highways leading to the crossroads were cut by German forces by noon December 21st. By nightfall, both sides recognized the encirclement was complete. The trap had snapped shut perfectly. Inside the ring sat elements of 101st Airborne Division, Combat Command B of 10th Armored Division, the 750th Tank Destroyer Battalion, various other supporting units, approximately 22,000 men, total surrounded by German forces. American soldiers found themselves outnumbered approximately 5-1, lacking cold weather gear, short on ammunition, food supplies dwindling, medical supplies critically low, senior leadership absent as many officers including 101st Commander Major General Maxwell Taylor were elsewhere. From German perspective, this was Stalingrad reversed. Now Americans were trapped, cut off from supplies, doomed to surrender or die slowly. General der Panzertruppe Heinrich Freiherr von Luttwitz commanded 47th Panzer Corps. His confidence was supreme and justified by experience. He remembered France in 1940. British Expeditionary Force trapped at Dunkirk. He witnessed what happened to encircled forces throughout the war. They withered away. Morale collapsed inevitably. Surrender followed starvation. Americans in Bastogne possessed perhaps 3 days of ammunition remaining, maybe 4 days of food if rationed carefully. Harsh winter weather with temperatures dropping to -10 degrees Celsius would accomplish half his work. German confidence ran so high that two panzer divisions of 47th Panzer Corps continued their mission toward the Meuse, December 22nd. Rather than attacking Bastogne with concentrated force, they left just one regiment behind to assist 26th Volksgrenadier Division in capturing the crossroads. Why waste precious tanks and fuel on a town doomed to fall from starvation and cold? Main objective remained Antwerp. Bastogne was merely an annoying obstacle that would resolve itself. From December 16th through December 22nd, weather served as Germany's greatest ally. Low clouds blanketed the battlefield. Freezing fog reduced visibility. Snow grounded feared Allied air forces completely. Germans took full advantage of heavily overcast conditions. These weather patterns grounded Allied superior air forces for extended periods. For first time since Normandy, German forces could move during daylight hours. Without fear of fighter-bomber attacks, they could concentrate forces without reconnaissance aircraft spotting them, could attack without facing devastating carpet bombing. That had destroyed so many German formations in France during summer fighting. Inside Bastogne's situation grew increasingly desperate with each passing day. Some artillery pieces had no high-explosive shells remaining. Others possessed only half-dozen rounds total. Food rations were completely exhausted by December 23rd. Defenders reduced to scavenging supplies from destroyed vehicles. Abandoned depots provided meager additional resources. Medical supplies reached critically low levels. Wounded men died from injuries that proper treatment could have saved. December 22nd brought German confidence to its peak. Certain of imminent victory, they sent their surrender demand. The scene unfolded with theatrical formality. At approximately 11:30 morning hours, 4 German soldiers approached American lines. 2 white flags waved above their small party. They used Arlon Road from direction of Remoy-Fosse, south of Bastogne. Senior officer was Major Wagner of 47th Panzer Corps. Junior officer Lieutenant Helmuth Henke of Panzer Lehr Operations Section carried briefcase under his arm. They brought blindfolds expecting to be escorted to American commander to discuss surrender terms like civilized officers. The ultimatum was typed in both English and German. Formal language threatening total destruction. The fortune of war is changing. This time, USA forces in and near Bastogne have been encircled by strong German armored units. More German armored units have crossed River Orthe near Orthouville, have taken March and reached St. Hubert. By passing through Hump, the message demanded honorable surrender within 2 hours, threatened complete annihilation if refused. From German perspective, this was generous, offering Americans chance to avoid pointless slaughter of surrounded troops. When American response returned, it contained single word: nuts. German command found themselves genuinely puzzled by this reply. McAuliffe reportedly answered with cryptic statement, nuts, an answer that somewhat confused Germans initially. Lieutenant Henke required explanation from Colonel Harper. If you do not understand what nuts means in plain English, it means go to hell. Back at German headquarters, the response caused consternation among officers. No surrounded force had ever responded so dismissively to surrender demand. General Major Kokott was reportedly stunned by American defiance. In post-war interrogations, he revealed their thinking. We offered honorable terms to trapped enemy. We had them surrounded 5-to-1 odds. No supplies could possibly reach them through our lines. To refuse seemed not brave, but completely insane. December 23, 1944, dawned with something Germans had not witnessed in 1 full week. Clear skies stretched across the Ardennes battlefield. Weather conditions started improving significantly, allowing Allied air forces to attack German positions. German soldiers emerged from frozen foxholes grateful for sunshine. That might warm their frozen limbs after another night below freezing. Many spent the night in temperatures well below zero, their feet numb from cold, weapons frozen solid. Then they heard the sound, distant drone that grew steadily louder, echoing off hills surrounding Bastogne like approaching thunder. At 6:45, morning hours, December 23rd, planes carrying 2 Pathfinder sticks took off from Chalgrove, headed for Belgium airspace. These were lead elements, guides who would mark drop zones for main supply force. They jumped at 9:35 a.m., quickly captured by American forces, and rushed to set up navigation equipment. At 11:50 on December 23rd, men along entire front witnessed planes approaching. It proved the most heartening spectacle of entire siege. For Americans, it represented salvation from starvation. For Germans, it marked beginning of understanding their terrible miscalculation. Main force appeared at 11:50 a.m., 241 C-47 aircraft flying in perfect formation at barely 1,000 feet altitude. They approached in waves, each group of planes releasing cargo in sequence, sky filling with parachutes of different colors, each color indicating different supply categories for defenders below. German anti-aircraft crews scrambled to their defensive guns. 88mm flak guns swiveled skyward. Pride of German artillery turned toward American transports. 20mm automatic cannons began rapid chatter. Machine guns added their voices to crescendo. Sky filled with black puffs from exploding shells. German anti-aircraft fire burst all around approaching planes. After one particularly loud explosion, nearby aircrew flinched. Hole in fuselage showed enemy round had passed between 2 men, only inches apart. American planes flew straight through barrage, maintaining formation with almost suicidal determination and discipline. 14 C-47s were lost on approach or over drop zone, shot down or so badly damaged they crashed immediately. But for every plane that fell, 15 more continued on course. Doors open wide, bundles tumbling out into December sky like mechanical rain. German soldiers watched in disbelief as damaged aircraft continued. Engines smoking from flak hits, wings torn by shrapnel, maintained course long enough to drop their supplies, before banking away or crashing into forests. One C-47 with tail assembly completely engulfed in flames flew directly over German positions, crew pushing out supply bundles until very last moment, before plane dove into tree line. What followed was masterclass in American logistics. That shattered German morale more effectively than any artillery barrage could. Colored parachutes descended like multicolored snowstorm. Thousands upon thousands drifting down onto snow-covered fields. Sight of colored supply chutes coming down gladdened hearts of paratroopers. But for every American heart that lifted, a German heart sank lower. This was not desperate last gasp of surrounded force. This was routine operation of military machine with unlimited resources. German intelligence officers frantically tried counting and categorizing deliveries. Red parachutes carried artillery shells, mortar rounds, small arms ammunition in wooden boxes. Blue parachutes held medical supplies, surgical equipment, plasma bottles, morphine ampules. Yellow parachutes contained K rations, D rations, canned food supplies. White parachutes brought blankets, winter clothing, boots and gloves. Green parachutes delivered radio equipment, batteries, signal supplies for communications. Orange parachutes held gasoline in 5-gallon containers for vehicles and heating needs. By day's end, one battalion reported 528 K rations on hand, along with 250 gallons of gasoline. Ammunition supply included high explosive rounds, 286, white phosphorus, 177, anti-tank, 201. This represented just one battalion's receipts. Multiply across all units in Bastogne, and scale becomes staggering. Morning drop was merely the beginning of American logistical demonstration. Throughout December 23rd, additional missions arrived over Bastogne. At 2 p.m., another wave appeared, this time including gliders towed by C-47s, carrying heavier supplies that could not be parachuted safely. 92.4 tons, including 2,975 gallons of gasoline, landed by glider. These gliders brought complete surgical units, including doctors, nurses, operating equipment for field hospitals. They delivered jeeps, communications equipment, even replacement artillery pieces for damaged guns. One glider carried nothing but whole blood for transfusions. Medical luxury German army could not provide even to highest-ranking officers. German medical officers watching through binoculars were stunned by American capabilities, while they treated wounded with paper bandages and sawdust, reduced to operating without anesthesia on most patients. Americans were flying in refrigerated blood supplies, penicillin in quantity, complete surgical teams with modern equipment. Gap in medical capability alone was sufficient to demoralize any military observer. By late afternoon, Pathfinder teams had marked multiple drop zones. Supply planes were arriving with clockwork regularity and precision. American artillery was firing part of resupply ammunition at German positions, before drop zone had been completely cleared of parachutes. Gunners were literally firing shells that had been floating down on parachutes minutes earlier. As if transport armada was not demoralizing, enough clear weather brought something even worse. Return of American air superiority in its most terrifying form imaginable. P-47. Thunderbolts started attacking German troops on roads. Thunderbolts came in low and fast. 8 50-caliber machine guns blazing death. Rockets screaming from under wings toward German positions. They hunted everything that moved on battlefield. Supply trucks, horse-drawn artillery pieces, individual vehicles, even small groups of soldiers walking. Every road became death trap. Every movement in daylight invited destruction from above. German forces that had moved freely for an entire week found themselves suddenly paralyzed. Supply columns moving toward front were caught in open, systematically destroyed by American fighter bombers. Psychological impact was immediate and devastating throughout German ranks. After a week of feeling like they were winning, German soldiers were abruptly reminded of what they had faced in Normandy battlefields. Enemy with such material superiority, they could afford hunting individual vehicles with aircraft. By nightfall, December 23rd, psychological transformation among German besiegers was complete. They had witnessed not just supply drop, but demonstration of overwhelming industrial and logistical superiority that defied all comprehension and belief. Mathematics were undeniable and deeply depressing. If America could afford risking hundreds of aircraft and crews to supply one surrounded division, what reserves must they possess? If they could deliver hundreds of tons of supplies in perfect coordination on few hours' notice, what was their true industrial capacity? December 24th brought clouds and snow again, grounding massive air fleets temporarily. German commanders hoped this might restore their tactical advantage. 26th Volksgrenadier received 1 Panzer Grenadier Regiment from 15th Panzer Grenadier Division on Christmas Eve for main assault planned the following day. This would be their last realistic chance. They had to take Bastogne, before weather cleared again, allowing American air power to return. German plan was ambitious, given their limitations, because it lacked sufficient troops, and those of 26th Volksgrenadier Division were near exhaustion. 47th Panzer Corps concentrated assault on several individual locations, on west side of perimeter in sequence. Rather than launching simultaneous attack on all sides, they would attack from northwest, hoping to break through supposedly weakened American defensive lines. Attack began in pre-dawn darkness of Christmas morning. In pre-dawn hours, December 25th, Christmas Day. Germans launched second all-out attack, intended to wipe out Bastogne pocket completely. 18 Mark IV tanks with supporting infantry broke through thin defensive line of 327th Glider Infantry, began advancing toward Hemrula village. For a moment it seemed Germans might succeed. Tanks broke through initial positions, infantry pouring through gap in American lines. German soldiers advanced through snow, certain that this time they would break American defense permanently. But American response was ferocious, backed by ammunition delivered just 2 days earlier. 2 tanks managed to escape deadly fire of 463rd Artillery, but were destroyed by rapid deployment armored force, dispatched by division headquarters. Of 18 tanks which began Christmas assault, none survived the day. Every single one destroyed by American defenders. December 26th delivered final blow to German hopes around Bastogne. Siege was lifted when spearhead of 4th Armored Division opened corridor. Other elements of General George Patton's Third Army broke through. In gathering darkness just after 1700 hours, December the 26th, first elements of combat command. A. 4th Armored Division broke through German encirclement from south, relieved the siege after 8 days. First American tanks to enter Bastogne came from 37th Tank Battalion, led by Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, who would later command all U.S. forces in Vietnam War. They found defenders exhausted but completely unbroken, supplied by air operations, confident in ultimate victory despite odds against them. Numbers tell story more starkly than personal accounts. According to U.S. Army records during Siege of Bastogne, 10.20.7 tons of supplies and equipment were dropped to 101st Airborne, including 4,900 gallons of gasoline by parachute. Additional 92.4 tons, including 2,975 gallons of gasoline, were landed by glider operations, breaking this down by individual days. December 23rd involved 241 C-47s in main drop, plus additional missions throughout day. December 24th, limited operations due to weather conditions. December 25, weather prevented major operations. December 26 to 27 continued resupply. Even after ground link was established, total exceeded 1113 tons of supplies delivered by air. Over 15,000 artillery shells of various types. Nearly 8,000 gallons of gasoline for vehicles. Medical supplies for treating wounded. Food for 15,000 men for extended period. Winter clothing for entire garrison. Compare this to German capabilities during same period. German forces around Bastogne, initially 54,000 men. American forces in Bastogne, 22,000 men surrounded. German aircraft sorties over Bastogne, less than 100 total. American aircraft sorties, over 2,000. German supplies delivered by air, exactly 0 tons. Post-war analysis by German military professionals confirmed what soldiers in field instinctively understood. General der Panzertruppe Hasso von Manteuffel commanded 5th Panzer Army during offensive, reflected on battle in post-war writings. His assessment was clear. Bastogne demonstrated Americans had solved modern warfare's fundamental problem: logistics in contested environment. They could supply encircled forces by air more efficiently. Then Germany could supply advancing forces by road. when weather permitted their material superiority was so overwhelming. That tactical excellence became completely irrelevant. General Major Heinz Kokott, described by Colonel S.L.A. Marshall as shy, scholarly, dignified commander, who never raises voice and appears temperate, provided most succinct assessment in post-war interrogation. His observation was crystal clear when those transport planes filled sky, December 23rd. Every German soldier who witnessed them understood truth. They were not fighting just an army. They were fighting entire industrial civilization, and they were armed with rifles and horses. Meeting with Kinnard was visible shock to German commanders. Seemed incredible to them that boyish-faced soldier had been one of their principal antagonists when Kokott met Colonel Harry Kinnard after war, who had been G3 operations officer of 101st during siege. He was amazed at Kinnard's youthful appearance. "Are you certain he was chief of operations? Is it not possible he was only chief for one regiment?" Psychological impact of Bastogne air supply spread rapidly through German ranks across entire Ardennes offensive. Every unit had soldiers who either witnessed it directly or heard detailed accounts from those who had. Story grew with each telling throughout German forces, but essential truth remained unchanged. America possessed material resources beyond German comprehension. Most bitter irony for German forces was recognition. They had created very conditions for their own psychological defeat. By surrounding Bastogne, they forced Americans to demonstrate their air supply capabilities in dramatic fashion. Had they bypassed town as originally planned, they might never have witnessed this display of overwhelming material superiority that broke their morale. After December 26th, German operations around Bastogne evolved into desperate, costly attacks that achieved nothing significant. Hitler still insisted on taking Bastogne as quickly as possible. He could not accept that surrounded American force had not only survived but been supplied so effectively. They were stronger after siege than before it began. December 29th brought reinforcements. 1st SS Panzer Division from 6th Panzer Army. More divisions thrown into meat grinder. 9th SS Panzer Division attacked repeatedly. Führer Escort Brigade committed to battle. 167th Volksgrenadier Division bled white against American positions now reinforced and resupplied. Last major German attack began January 4th, stalled very quickly against prepared defenses. German soldiers attacked same positions again and again, achieving nothing but adding to casualty lists. What German soldiers witnessed was merely fraction of American industrial capacity in full operation. They did not know that Douglas C-47 had become mainstay for airborne drops, used extensively for Operations Overlord Dragon, Market Garden and Varsity throughout war. Over 1,000 C-47s were produced during war. American factories producing aircraft at rates Germany could not match. More than 5,000 paratroopers were dropped by C-47s during war. Historical vindication came through post-war analysis. Military historians consider it a pivotal moment, not just in Battle of Bulge, but in demonstrating futility of conventional military operations against overwhelming industrial superiority. U.S. Army official history notes German prisoner interrogations after December 23rd showed marked change in tone. Before air supply captured, Germans spoke of temporary setbacks, eventual victory still possible. After witnessing aerial armada, they spoke only of survival, hope that war would end quickly. 101st Airborne Division casualties from December 19, 1944 to January 6, 1945, were 341 killed, 1691 wounded, 516 missing. Despite being surrounded and outnumbered 5-1, they suffered relatively light casualties, testament to effectiveness of air supply. in maintaining their combat capability throughout siege. Ultimate lesson was clear to all observers. 101st Airborne would never surrender, because they did not need to surrender. Their nation could supply them through air itself, turning ancient art of siege warfare into obsolete relic of military history. German soldiers who watched 241 C-47s December 23, 1944, plus continuing waves of supply aircraft, witnessed not just relief of Bastogne, but future of warfare itself, future that belonged to nation. That could fill sky with aircraft, as easily as Germany could fill field with soldiers. They had seen arithmetic of American abundance. In those numbers was written final chapter of Third Reich's military ambitions. War would continue another 5 months, but for those who witnessed sky over Bastogne fill with American planes, it ended. On that clear December morning, when they realized 101st would never surrender, not because they were braver soldiers, but because their nation would never let them fail. Planes over Bastogne did not just supply 101st Airborne, they shattered last illusions of German victory, wrote in sky final truth of Second World War. America's arsenal was vast beyond imagination, its resolve unbreakable under pressure, its victory certain and inevitable. German soldiers who witnessed that aerial armada knew with absolute certainty what their leaders would deny 4 more months. War was over. America had won it in skies, over small Belgian town, on clear December morning, when whole world could see. 101st would never surrender. Some German soldier perspectives reconstructed from documented positions. Post-war testimonies provide context. Individual soldier diaries from Siege Limited. In historical record available. All major events, dates, statistics. Commander statements from documented historical sources.